The hybrid structure, lighthouse, the tallest wooden structure, cathedral, 176th Street, monuments, and the beautiful city hall. You know with the wind in your hair, you're in the right place. Guyana, oh, that's my beautiful country. Guyana, one people, one nation, one destiny. Look down from your window, no big city lights, just greenery. You don't know what you come for. Listen up, my dear, we're such a man free. Welcome to the land of many faces, not one, not
Good evening and welcome to Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram. Thank you very much for joining us. It's the first program for the year, and I want to take this opportunity to wish you a very peaceful and successful 2020. May you achieve all the goals that you probably set yourself in 2019 did not achieve, that you will double up on those, and 2020 will be one of the outstanding years for you. Thank you very much as well for your support on Plain Talk in the last decade or years of the decade. As you know, we're beginning both a new year and a new decade, and no wonder President David Granger described the coming this year as the beginning of the decade of development. On Plain Talk tonight, I want to discuss both domestic and political issues and international issues. As you know, sometime late yesterday afternoon, as you probably sat down before your television, you would have seen that Iran, a Middle East powerhouse, fired off some missiles aimed at US camps, bases in Iraq, and everyone thought perhaps it was going to be the beginning of a serious conflagration in the Middle East, as President Trump likes to say, as the world has never seen before. President Trump was supposed to have spoken from the White House last night, and maybe better sense prevailed, and he did not. When he did this morning, he said that Iran, which had fired the missiles, had backed down, and so he was taking no further action. Then, late last year, Britain, our mother country, we used to be told, walked away from the European Union in what is called Brexit. Britain exiting the European Union. On Plain Talk this evening, Mr. Gerald Perreira, who I'm sure has some very strong views about Trump and his backing away from action against Iran, and in fact some of the impressions of Iran as having warned Trump to get your people out of the way so we can shoot. I'd want to hear his take on that. So Gerald, welcome to Plain Talk.
Thank you, Chris. Always a pleasure to be here.
A lot of bluster by Iran, the country you love to support.
Well, I am not heavy on the Iranians, I got my views about the Iranians, but I think Iran has a right to defend itself as a sovereign state, and I think no one can deny when you look at the United States. The US behaves as a global bully. The US breaks international law, does what suits them, and ignore rulings by that are, you know, international bodies, whether it's the WTO or what. And what they did, you know, sending a drone in to kill two top military commanders, one from a militia in Iraq, Mahmoud is from the what you call Khatib, Hezbollah, which translates as the Brigade of the Party of God, and General Qasem Soleimani of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. That's you don't do that under the international, under the UN Charter, the international. That is
But
illegal.
those are two men, Gerald,
Yeah.
who did not behave according to international norms either. Soleimani had lots of blood on his hands. The Iraqi person also. They were not observing
In what
rules.
in what way? In what way?
In terms of spreading terrorism, Soleimani was on the United Nations list.
No. Here, I want, show me the act of terrorism, any particular specific act of terrorism. That this is what the U.S. and the Western allies do. They designate. Take for example, they've designated the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as well as Hezbollah as terrorist organizations. I know of no case where those two entities have attacked civilian targets. So Hezbollah is a nationalist, a patriotic organization that defends the territorial integrity of Lebanon, right? And they have done that. I don't know of any part of the world that Hezbollah has exported acts of terrorism. And I mean, let's look in that area.
Somalia. I mean, let's take just one.
Yeah.
Somalia.
Who?
The Iranians in Somalia.
In Somalia, the Iranians are not tied up. The Al-Shabaab in...
Yeah, but agents of Iran, is it?
In what case? What instances?
How you mean?
No.
But Gerald, let's ask this.
Al-Shabaab is not Shia. It's not a Shia entity.
But let's say
It's not a
this.
Shia entity.
You ask about footprint.
Yeah.
No one who is going to commit acts either on a major scale or even a minor scale leaves traces. Would they?
No, but what I'm saying is, if you look at it, Al-Shabaab in Somalia,
Yes.
and they've extended their operations into Kenya.
Kenya, yes.
Al-Shabaab is a Wahhabi inspired by Wahhabi ideology,
Yes.
which is a subsection of the Sunni.
That's correct.
They're not Shias, and in fact they hate the Shia, right? Al-Shabaab is linked. Al-Shabaab is linked to Al Qaeda.
Who would you say
And
was
they-
involved in the Kenyan attack a couple of days ago?
Well, Al-Shabaab claim responsibility for that. And then there's a branch that split from Al-Shabaab called the Islamic State in that part in East Africa.
So your view, now let's be clear, when the person was killed, he was in Iraq, not in Iran. Well,
No.
he was supposed, in fairness, he was supposed to have been meeting the Prime Minister,
Yeah.
the lame duck Prime Minister of Iraq.
Of Iraq.
What was he doing there?
Well, you got to understand the relations. The relations between Iraq and Iran goes back a long time, ever since when Saddam Hussein was president of the first Gulf War that they had with Iran and Iraq.
Yes.
You had organizations like the Badr Brigade, headed by Musa al-Sadr, so his father, and those groups, some of those Iraqis fought with the Iranians against the Ba'athist regime of Iraq, of Saddam Hussein.
Yes.
And after the...
But we're talking about now. We're
No.
talking about now. What was it?
Well, there's a number of militias that are allied. They're allied to Iran, and Iran, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps have trained those brigades, because when the Iraqi army was severely weakened after the fall of when the Americans went in
Yes.
there, and the remnants of the Iraqi army, when the Iraqi army went to fight ISIL or ISIS, whichever, right? They couldn't put up any fight, and then eventually ISIS overran. You remember when ISIS led that huge counterattack and overran cities and had the Iraqi army running, right?
Yes.
It was Qasem Soleimani and those Shia militias who took the fight to ISIS.
But
Had it been for them, ISIS would have been right through into areas right now taking
Kurds,
over Syria, Lebanon, and all
the
that.
Kurds also played a big role.
The
The Americans played a big role.
Yeah,
sir.
but the Americans, the
In
Americans
fact,
were
the NATO forces.
yeah, but the Americans were not aimed at destroying ISIL. They were managing them.
Yes.
Because there are instances of where ISIL retreated, moved heavy weapons right under the eyes of the United States Air Force. Because the objective is to use ISIL to remove nationalist regimes. And the minute they get out of them, you bomb them back in line. And we've seen that.
So, when America moved
Yeah.
with that assassination, it's nothing
Yeah.
less than an assassination, was that a declaration of war?
Well, it is. It is. And I think if you look at, go back further, when you had Bolton was pressing for war with Iran.
That's the American, yes.
Yes, he's no longer there. But there's a number of them who were pushing for war with
He's
Iran.
no longer with the U.S. government.
No, he's no longer. But those guys operating, behind you, if you know how they operate in the shadows and so.
He was pushing.
But he's a warmonger.
He was pushing
Yeah,
Trump
yeah,
to war, towards war.
yeah.
Now, so when this happened, and you had hundreds of thousands of persons in the streets, Iraq and Iran, the call was swift, direct, and decisive action
Yeah,
against America.
yeah.
That didn't pan out in that sense, did it?
Well, I'll tell you something. I want to make from the outset. I am not a fan. I've never been a fan of the Iranian regime. I have my views about them, right? But
In
I would
its relationship with the United States.
I would support any country who would defend their sovereignty, have the right to make decisions as a nation state, and not allow themselves to be bullied. For example, the Iraqi parliament voted unanimously for the United States troops and all foreign troops to leave Iraq.
Yes.
And Trump turned around and said, we will not be leaving.
This is after
Yes, after the assassination
of Soleimani.
Yes, we'll not be leaving. If you want us to leave, you have to pay for the base we built. I mean, come on. That's global, that's arrogance.
Now, we go to last night. This program is
Yeah.
being live on Wednesday night. It's going to be rebroadcast on Sunday. So I mentioned the date. The expectation that Trump would have responded with firepower, shock and awe.
Yeah.
You remember Donald Rumsfeld and the Iraq.
Shock and awe, yeah.
What transpired was that the Iranians briefed the Iraqis, friends of the Americans, that look, we'll be attacking you there. Just stay out of the way. That's a little bit of a fix.
Well, I gotta check. I gotta re-examine that. I heard you in this, but I gotta look. I need to look at that carefully. But this
Can you imagine? Can
Yeah.
you imagine? What was it? Was 12 or 14 missiles?
12 missiles.
Missiles.
12 ballistic missiles.
And they were so precise
Yeah.
as not to touch a single American troop.
Well, they hit the bases.
They hit the base, yes. Well, not
Maybe a few,
not the
yeah.
sleeping quarters. Because this hit at about 1 o'clock their time. This is pitch
Yeah.
darkness. Well, obviously there's going to be light in the camps. But surely that's unlikely that you would send 12 missiles and not a single one would just veer off and head towards the living quarters.
Yeah, see the point you're making. I don't know. I'm not a person who into that knowledgeable about the missiles and how precise, the precision of them and the hit target, but it makes sense, right? I could see where the point, like it's some sort of conspiracy or some arrangement. or so. Right? But the thing is, when after Iran fired those missiles, I said with Trump with all the bravado, when he sit down, they're going to say, well, look, because you see, if you hit Iran, a hit on Iran will escalate the tension in the entire region.
Hezbollah.
Because, Hezbollah will get involved, all these militias, it will spread to Syria and right across the region. Saudi Arabia, the Saudis are not happy. They're saying, let's let's cool down this thing. And then when it starts, the Houthis will rain missiles on Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Because remember, Saudi Arabia been bombing Yemen for years,
That's
and they
correct,
get away
yeah.
with it. But since we're on the topic and we're talking about terrorism, the two in that region, the two biggest sponsors of terrorism are the Saudis and the Qataris.
And what about Iran?
Well, Iran, I don't know of any act of terrorism that Iran sponsors. I know Iran has provided military assistance and training to militias and groups that stand up to Israel.
All right.
I know that. I know they sent troops to help Assad in Syria.
Yes.
I know that. But then the United States designated Cuba as a terrorist entity. Point out one act of terrorism that Cuba, from the Cuban Revolution, time of Fidel Castro, from 59 to now, that the Cuban Revolution, any act that the Cuban Revolution carried out that is considered terrorist. No. Cuba resisted terrorism. The Americans,
They were victims of terrorism.
They're victims. The Americans sponsored the Cubana bombing of 1976.
Yeah.
If people don't understand that by now, well then, wake up.
So, let's go back again to last
Yeah.
night. Who won? Trump or the
I would say,
Iranians?
well, we got to watch, right, what's going to come out. I think that his military advisors
Because
as
the
much
Iranians
as
did say,
talk,
we concluded
yeah,
action.
yeah.
It's very, very interesting
Yes,
language.
with the language. That's right. Right? Because both sides are saying they don't want an escalation. Right? They don't want this thing to escalate. But some of the Americans, some from the State Department and so like Essence, they'd be talking about, if Iran starts a war, we can end it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's much easy. I mean, this is different to Iraq. This is not you going in. Iran is not a walk in the park, It's not going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it will have global repercussions. It will be something, very serious.
One of the direct effects of the action was the spike
Yeah.
in oil price
Yeah.
and the
Rose by
spike
three.
in gold, as
yeah.
well. So are we the beneficiaries of this action?
Well, anybody who think we'll be the beneficiaries got to be living in a fool's paradise. How are we going to benefit?
Well, we know an oil state, a petro state.
Yes. When the war started with Iraq, they turned to Nigeria and asked Nigeria to up production, and Nigeria made, during that period, Nigeria made billions of dollars in oil export. And where it went?
I was about to ask you.
It went into the bank accounts of the elites. That's where it ended up in buying property in London and Paris and other
You're
Western
not,
capitals.
on a serious note, you're not suggesting that will happen here.
I believe, this is what I believe. I believe that the model that we are running with in this country, neoliberal economics, cannot deliver the good life promised to the masses in this country.
Well,
We must, you know this, Chris. If you look at, you see, it's easy to tell people that you'll be poor no more and all of that. But
those are slogans,
yes,
meaningless.
let's get it. Let them show us which part. First of all, the concept of a green state is incompatible with neoliberal economics. They don't go together. They don't work.
And with fossil fuel.
And with fossil
exploitation.
fuel, that's right. So we can't speak about a green state and then pursuing fossil fuel, depending on fossil fuel. We have to move into other forms of sources of energy, right? So there's all these contradictions, right?
But-
And oil, it's not about oil will raise the standard of living. It's back to economic policies, because you can have, look, Equatorial Guinea produces oil. I look at the poverty in Equatorial Guinea. Just a few benefit from the oil, right? And it happened in many countries. Even in Angola. Angola is one of the most expensive countries in the world. The elite, the former President De Santos' daughter, benefited.
But the truth is, for all the corruption that exists in Guyana,
Yeah.
and there's no question about it,
Yeah.
you see it taking place now.
Yeah.
All these contracts that are suddenly being awarded
Uh-huh.
to all these contractors
Yeah.
posing in newspapers and so on. Our media are largely free. You've got some courageous persons
Yeah.
who speak out on corruption.
Yeah.
We couldn't have a DeSantis type of corruption. You couldn't have the those other countries you mentioned just.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen here. Do you feel that's a real threat?
What do you mean in terms of?
Of the scale of corruption. We have corruption.
Yeah.
But
But
is
no,
it
no,
gonna
no.
happen?
In Angola, that was at a high. You know, that was really it went that went over the years, and that got it out of hand.
Now, you talk about the neoliberal economics. I was extremely surprised when President Granger talked about the rising tide lifts all the boats. That's the most discredited trickle-down Washington consensus theory, isn't it?
What he said?
The rising tide
Yeah.
lifts all the boats.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
But,
The trickle down. Yeah.
you know, as somebody said,
It doesn't
The-
trickle down. It trickles up.
the retort to that, though,
Yeah.
so what about those people who don't have a boat?
Correct.
So where are they going to rise?
Yeah.
The fact is,
Mhm.
there's nothing to show. And that's what I found quite disappointing
Yeah.
with this declaration of the decade of development.
Yeah.
That the rising tide will lift all boats.
Yeah.
The poor people are not going to get...
Yep.
If you look at the steps that we have taken,
Yeah.
if you look at the positions of some of the political parties, all the political parties,
Neoliberal economics.
you're an outlier.
Yeah. We're the exception. We're the exception. Look, Chris, if you go back and you check, you Google and you go read. For years, I have spoken out against the neoliberal economics. You know it was implemented in this country since Mr. Hyde's time
Yes.
in the form of the ERP, the
That's
SAP
correct.
structural adjustment. And from then right down, we've pursued that. Right? We haven't departed from that. And that was imposed, as you said, the Washington Consensus.
But
It was an imposition that we went with.
you know the funny thing is, and I think Freddie Kissoon,
Yeah.
the Culture News columnist,
Yeah.
pointed this out. He highlighted this,
Yeah.
that the poor people often vote against their own interests.
Yeah.
They vote against the same Washington
Yep.
consensus.
Mhm.
I see these people who have to walk around in the rain and sun and dangerously putting up flags here, there.
Yeah, well, you know, he
You
took
never
a
see
different...
you never see the people with the upper class people doing
They
that.
don't. They don't. And it is time anybody who's preaching an emancipatory politics, if you're talking emancipatory politics and about empowering the people, then the people got to come to grips with this. Because it is those people, it is the poor and the dispossessed who will go to the front. Who will go to the
But
front.
they also
They-
go
Yeah.
voluntarily. What's the psychology of that?
It's you know, I think it has to do also with what Gramsci speaks of, right? It happens in our society about hegemony,
Yeah.
where the ruling class, the ruling elites will always have to make sure that their interests, you get the people to believe, to buy into the whole thing, that your
but
interests
if
and their
we're
interests,
saying-
that the interests of the elite and the masses are the same, and they're not.
If we're saying that the politics,
Yeah,
and you're talking from 1989 now,
yeah,
that's when the economic recovery program.
correct.
is. Surely by now, the poor people should learn that this economic model is not for them.
Well, I agree with you. I agree. And, you know, those of us who are active, what we have to do, Chris, look, it's an uphill battle. I mean, the major parties have a lot of money and they have the people and so, right? And they're not, none of them are involved.
Money that obtained
edu-
without any transparency, any accountability,
Well.
and quite often illegally.
Right. Well, they don't have to, they don't educate, they're not into the business of educating the people. They don't. I mean, you have a rally, right? You can have a political rally and you go and you see people with cups and the poor are bearing all that. Now, those are things we have to, now I am not, maybe you say that that's part of our culture, subculture, whatever you want to call it, but serious, when we are discussing issues, right? Serious issues. These things got to be addressed. We can't be pouring.
But then it must be, if you're saying you're the only party
Yeah.
that takes a position in that regard, then your party is a failure. You've not been able to sway anybody.
No, listen. You can't. That would be that's unfair to us, right? That's unfair
Well,
because
defend yourself.
it's unfair. Now, we have
Why haven't you been more successful then?
we have limited resources, right? We have a lot of people who have expressed an interest in joining us, right? And we are in a no nonsense party. We call a spade a spade. We call a spade a spade. Good? We're not, as I told you many times on this program, we're not in the business of fooling the people. We rather tell the people the truth and get 10 votes than mislead them. Because as Cabral
you think
said,
the people like to be fooled? That's why I'm asking, what's the psychology
no,
of it?
I don't think.
Maybe someone like Freddie Kissoon would be a nice person to try to engage on an issue like this.
I don't think the people is an issue. I don't think it's a question that people like to be fooled. I think politicians have a way in manipulating public opinion and misleading the people, and they do that because what they do is they create scapegoats
But they
to distract from the issues that confront the people.
But they mislead the people, as you say.
Uh-huh.
But surely the people have the intelligence and the awareness
Yeah.
to know that they're being misled.
Well, it's a battle. You have work to do. We go out there. We contested the last elections. We're here. We do a lot of community work and so. It's unfair to say we have failed. You got parties that have been around for decades.
But they
right?
don't
And
support
they
the
haven't
same. No, but that's not. You and they have very different ideas.
But yes,
as to what
we
the
do.
society and
You're
politics.
absolutely right. And the difference between us and them is that all the parties that on the political landscape, the institutional ones, the major ones, as well as these 19 that just mushroomed, they all have accepted neoliberal economics as a given. They're not questioning it. We are the only ones supposed to people can go and read our website, www.ovpguyana.org, and you'll see it. Our guiding principles. We made it clear that we are opposed to the so-called free market as much as we are opposed to the command type of economy, right? That we are opposed to both of them. We speak about the democratization of the economy, political devolution of power, empowerment to the people, and that is a bottom-up thing rather than top-down.
What is your position? Because it's clear
Yeah,
that the APNU plus AFC,
yeah.
which mind-bogglingly said that they're not going to release the revised Commingsburg Accord.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of a national political institution is saying, we're appealing to you
Yeah,
for your support,
yeah,
but we're not going to tell you
yeah.
what arrangements we've entered into for government? That's not good enough.
No, I think the people, you have an obligation to the people of this country, right, should know.
But nobody's asking, nobody's raising any issues like that. Is our system, is our culture one of passivity?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because we're not asking questions.
No, we don't. I'm not saying we don't. We don't.
We've just seen dozens of contracts have come out.
Yeah.
Just yesterday and today. Now, with a government that has very limited constitutional spending authority,
Yeah.
you're not getting any pushback against these things.
No. Because the politics of this country is about these two leviathans. It's as though the two of them own this country, and you find your place in one out of the two, right? And the two of them compete. They compete to see who is best suited to manage this dysfunctional system we have, and people rally around that.
You really think people make that active decision, that conscious, considered decision? Who is better?
It's
Or-
there's a number.
Or it just, I know what I'm going to do.
It
even before
boils down to a
I
whole
even
thing
think
too about
about-
the security issue and all of that, because there are people who will tell you, for example, of course they don't agree with some of the policies or what is being done, but given the arrangement what you have, they don't want to see the return of the opposition.
Now,
And I am one of those persons. I don't want to see the return of the PPP.
So you're prepared to accept lack of transparency, unconstitutionality, illegalities.
No.
Oh.
It's not one or the other. I don't agree with that. I think there should be transparency. I think there must be accountability and so. But I'm saying that given where we are, sometimes as Mao Zedong said, we got to see the fundamental, the primary contradiction and address those. And, you know, I mean, there was a lot of lawlessness under the previous regime. I mean, you know, we had a lot of young people in this country who disappeared.
What do you say? That's absolutely true. You had the crime wave and all of that. But what do you say about a government and a president who openly violates the Constitution?
Well,
that must surely be one of the most egregious acts.
Yes, but
well, how could you have a but with that?
No, I agree with you. I believe that the Constitution, that I am opposed to. I will stand against anyone who violates the Constitution. But we have a history of constitutional violations.
So do you want to continue? Do you want to continue that?
No, I'm opposed to that. But one of the things I realized about politics years ago, that where I am and what I feel about things does not change things, right? My opinion.
But that's not good for a political leader, because you ought to have the confidence. Of your conviction.
Of course I do, but as Lenin said we got to make sure that in this battle that we are fighting, whenever we political, we revolutionary fighting, that we are not so much in front, the vanguard, ahead of the people. We have to be where the people, where they are, right, to understand what's happening. No, listen, I agree with you. I'm opposed to all forms of violation of the Constitution. The Constitution is supreme, and I oppose any any party that is in power who violates the Constitution, be it the APNU plus AFC or the PPP. That's clear. But I'm saying that what we are seeing here, right, is the battle lines are drawn, and to the masses of people. And it's sad.
Yeah, but I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to the masses of people. I'm hoping the masses are listening.
Yeah, but to the masses of people, they listen to Perreira. A lot of we go out there. A lot of people say, yes, we support you, agree with you. But when the crunch time comes to put in the vote, to put the X on the ballot paper,
no, but
we are not going to be. But that's why we are not primarily an electoral outfit. You know, we enter the arena of politics. The elections is just one area, right, of political battle. One area that you're going to. There are many other areas, and we have to create new spaces. We just can't focus on every 5 years.
How long have you been around in the OVP?
The OVP was launched in
3 election cycles, isn't it?
No, 2.
Yeah, but this is the third one, I mean.
No, this is the second. This is the second.
You were not in 2011.
No, we were not in 2011. We contested the last one where the PPP was removed.
You talked about 19 political parties.
Yeah.
And a mushroom.
We are not we were before them.
Is that a pejorative term that you're trying to dismiss them and disparage them?
No.
What gives you any more legitimacy than any of those 19?
Okay, you know how I'll answer that? You remember you had a guest not long ago, and you asked them what is their track record when they were standing up against certain things and so. Now, under this government, you have to acknowledge that there is a breathing space. And many of these people who just form political parties overnight, where were they? Where were these people when the going was rough? Where were these parties?
When you say the going was rough, when you're talking about?
Under the previous regime.
But
there was victimization.
No, but in 1997, you probably had more political parties contesting elections.
Yeah.
Actually contesting elections.
Than now?
Than now, yes.
Yeah.
Because listen, you ain't sure all of those people who, these 19 or whatever the number is.
Yeah, they did have a lot of parties at that time. Correct, yeah.
No, but the point I'm going to make the point, Gerald. we ensured 19 come January the 10th
That they will make the thing.
that they're gonna make the cut.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, your own party has decided I ain't going in this big race. I pull him back.
Because we are strategic thinkers. Look, to contest at the top, to contest. Look at the size of this country, right? To contest 6 regions alone. I mean, look at the time the elections was called.
But that's what the
When
Constitution calls for.
Yeah.
That's what the representation of
Yeah.
the people that calls for.
Yeah.
That in order for you to contest for any seat in the National Assembly, you have to contest in 6
6
of the 10 regions,
regions.
accounting for 13 of the 25
correct.
geographical
Yeah,
constituencies.
yeah.
Now, the question I wanted to ask you, is that a reasonable position for our constitution and our legislation to take, given that our society is based on democracy? If I want to represent in the National Assembly
Yeah.
the region in which I live,
Yes.
why should I be prevented from doing so?
No, I agree. I agree with that. I think there must be, that has to be, we got to do some part of the constitutional reform and so.
Well, who's interested in constitutional reform?
Well, it's
Everybody,
they've
all
talked about it. Everybody have talked about it, but we have not addressed it.
Well,
You know, it's unfair. It's against. It doesn't work in the interest for the smaller parties. It doesn't.
what doesn't work?
That.
But the problem for me, Gerald, is this. I have spoken on this matter before.
Yeah, I know.
I'd actually got a legal opinion on this.
Yeah.
I shared it
Yeah.
with people, with
And
various
it just-
and they don't do anything about
No.
it. And
I know you've raised it before. I heard.
and I'm sure as we are speaking now,
Yeah.
you got people scrunting around trying to get
The
signatures.
Yeah.
Because
Which
you have
is
to
not
get
easy.
you
for
have to
them.
get between 150 and 175
5.
for in each of the
It's
constituency.
in the, yeah.
And the truth is, come election day, they don't get that many votes.
That's right.
So that's
So something is wrong. Something is wrong.
among you political parties.
Yeah. Well, you see, what we are doing is this. Listen. You know, politics is a thing. Politics is something you have to study. And when you're involved in political activities, you have to think strategically. Our position is this, right? We do not have the resources, the financial resources to take on the big parties. And we make it's on our website. We don't have corporate backers, and we don't want corporate backers and foreign companies backing us. Clear. We're not the recipients of funding from any one of them. Right? So we have a struggle in our hands because those who back those parties, when they win, when they get into office, they have to reward them through concessions or contracts, and the people lose out. So we contest at the regional level. Right? Because instead of giving the ruling party the parliament and the region, and then when you have local government elections, you give them the NDCs and the city council and all that, give OVP, give us party that is independent, give us the region. If we win the region, then we will be playing second fiddle to the people. If the APNU AFC wins the region, then the APNU, those who constitute the regional council, will be playing second fiddle to the administration. But the OVP wins the region 4, right? We will be there to serve the people, and then got, for example...
But you're talking there about local government elections now, though.
Yep. Well, you got that at local government, but we're talking about the region. Because region 4 is a big region, it's strategic.
The truth is, I'm not sure GECOM itself, and I'm being very... This is not being facetious. I'm not sure the GECOM itself understands some of the legislation. For example, we often hear we don't have campaign financing legislation. under the
there.
Representation of the People's Act, there's an entire part of this act
Yeah.
that deals with election expenses. It deals with reporting,
Yeah.
and GECOM does not.
Yeah.
And it's damn annoying.
Yeah.
They run one of the most expensive elections in the world,
Yes.
and they can't get basic things like the submission of returns and declarations on elections.
Yeah. So that's something that is just brushed aside.
GECOM is brushing it aside.
Yeah.
GECOM, I cannot believe saying
Yeah.
that they don't know how to verify people's nationality. Well, you've had situations where persons fall within an election age, the leader of the list.
Yeah.
It's the leader of the list you have to make responsible.
That's true.
And this is
That's
a
true.
statutory declaration.
Yeah.
All they have to do, Gerald,
Yeah.
to show that they are serious
Yeah.
is for a sample.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask every single candidate. For a sample of them saying, look, you have been selected
Yeah.
on a random basis
Yeah.
for me to verify that your statutory declaration under Article 155, which is the dual citizenship,
Yeah.
I am
The
carrying
dual
out.
citizenship was always there.
Yes, it's always been there.
Always been there.
They're not carrying it out.
Yeah.
GECOM, for some reason, has been so concerned on house to house, and in some things, in some areas, that really is none of their business, none in terms of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And they're going public.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that the media said, oh, they just parrot this thing, that,
Yeah.
oh, it's hard to check. No, what you have to do, they know, for example, who in the 2015 elections
Yeah.
violated Article 155. The legislation says what happens. GECOM sits quiet.
Yeah.
GECOM is sitting quiet on this question of election expenses, and you political parties, you complaining you don't have money, and how corrupt the big parties are, and you do nothing about it.
Well,
What's,
you know,
what's wrong
the
with
thing
our
is,
society?
I think it's not in the interest of the major parties to want that, because they get campaign, they got big contributions from big business, both inside and outside of this country. We don't get that. We don't have those type of.
Well, why don't you all make some noise about these
But
things?
we do what we can do, right? We do what we can do, and it's through letters that we write letters to the papers. We do flyers, and it's through programs like this that we can come on it and get our
But don't bother with
hero
you.
reviews out there.
You ought to be paying to come on this program as
Yeah.
frequently as you do.
Campaign.
Campaign fine. Now listen to this one.
Yeah,
Section 109
yeah,
of the Representation of the People's Act. The Chief Election Officer shall, as soon as may be after the receipt of each election expenses return, cause to be published in the Gazette a summary thereof, accompanied by a notice of the time and place at which the election expenses returns and accompanying documents and election declaration can be inspected.
yeah. It's there. It's clear.
This is part of the
yeah.
law.
Yeah,
What is the Chief Elections Officer doing?
Yeah.
Himself violating the law.
yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's there.
But you have people in the media and political parties where you have nothing. Look,
The-
one rally,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
by these big parties,
The
either
media.
PPPC
Yeah.
or the APN, is a violation of this act.
Yeah.
Elections ought to be free and fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
This
That-
is
that- that- you can't go against that. It is there. It is there. It is there. So it is clearly a violation. It is clearly a violation. It's there.
Why
But-
is
yeah.
our society, just accepting these things? What do you think?
Look,
Is it that we are so corrupt and so incompetent and so incapable of having free and fair elections?
it's a case. It comes down to one thing: keeping the other out. One keeping the other out, and the other one wanting the other to go. That is what it boils down. So some people are prepared. People are prepared to turn and they're a blind eye to these
But as
issues, as you said, that is part of the Constitution
But you are saying
and the laws of this
that
land.
because you want to keep out either one of these parties, you're going to close your eyes to these
I am
things.
not saying that. I go there, and I listen to people. And I could do all the I could philosophize from now till that kingdom come and argue. And people see it has been reduced to a conflict between the two major parties. If I criticize, if I say anything about the PPP, right? In a very mechanistic way, people assume that you're APNU. If you say anything against APNU, then you're PPP. You know, there's no middle ground. You're one or the other. And we got to go beyond that. Because that PPP versus APNU or PNCR or what, right? That type of politics is not going to take us anywhere. It is not emancipatory. We need a politics that will empower the people and transcend this baseless and petty, this base politics and petty of two parties that's competing. There is no battle of ideas here. Nobody's offering anything that is liberatory for the people. Nobody's sitting down to tell the people, you could talk about the good life, but how are we going to implement? What's the mechanisms we're going to put in place? How are we going to redistribute wealth or look at the issues of income? You heard Alfonso, the statement that he made about, I think Mike McCormack picked him up.
Yes.
About the big miners will determine the outcome.
I think Mike McCormack used the word like looting.
Yeah, looting. Rather than, he says neither socialist or capitalist, it's about looting.
But the point is this. Everybody keeps talking, we can't continue like this. But we do continue like this. It's the same.
Well, for the survival, in 15, 20 years down the line, for the survival of this nation, we will have to move in a new direction. We'll have to move in a new direction. We got to start.
No, I'm asking you, starting when?
Well, we believe we've been fighting for a long time. We talk about a transformational. We want to see real change, Chris, real change in this country, and not some form of exchange. Because what we've been our political elites, they're no vision. They possess no vision, right? We don't have.
Mr. Granger says he's a seafarer man.
I didn't know he said that.
Yes. I thought it was a David playing Route C. That's all right.
All right.
But seafarer where and what are you doing about oil? It's oil money.
Yeah.
Clive Thomas came up with this statement of direct cash payments. It's the closest we have come to redistribution of the income.
But you know, Raymond Gaskin was on Kaichur radio, and he made a correction of that. The force.
Where's the correction?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't want to get into this thing about Clive Thomas, who said it first, who pointed out first, or what. But as Raymond pointed, the first time this thing about cash transfer to the people, right, was highlighted was by myself and OVP, because I saw it in Libya. I saw it. And we passed it around. We mentioned it in our flyers and so on, our last political program we brought out. And for some reason, somebody saw it and picked it up around, because Clive Thomas made reference. He said a friend told him, and I wrote a letter about that, a friend told him that it is done in Alaska. And I said, well, look, I refer to Clive as anti-imperialist and dependency theorist. You know, he's one of those people with the dependency.
Yes.
Wrote about
He was one of the outstanding progressive economists.
Correct. With Norman Gorvan, McIntyre, those people, Samir Amin and so from the Global South, right? But I said, well, Clive is meant to be a champion of the Global South, and he didn't know that you had this in Libya. You had to hear a friend told you about Alaska, but Libya did it. Libya was doing it. Libya used to transfer more than 5,000 US, I can't remember the exact amount, directly to the population.
Does the OVP support direct cash transfer?
Direct. I support it to households, but the system it must be put in place to evaluate.
You're saying is that a means tested distribution, meaning do you give the guy who is very wealthy, multimillionaire, do you give him the same amount that you give his driver, perhaps, or his gardener?
No. No.
So how do you determine who gets?
In the form in the Libyan Jamahiri, it was given to households based on how many persons constitute the household, the size of the family, and their lower income levels, and so they got and there were certain for those at different categories of employees.
So,
and so
if you're claiming, and I know that you're not trying to score any point,
no.
but you said that you had witnessed it, you read about it in Libya.
Yeah.
Why haven't you been more vocally supportive in promoting cash transfer in Guyana?
I wrote letters to the papers supporting it. I spoke at forums about it. We support it.
And the APNU AFC rejects it.
Yeah, they reject it, and I don't know why. Why the WPA is pushing for it. They remember the coalition, and I support them. I support the WPA for pushing that.
The APNU AFC is also very supportive of retaining the SO contract to the end of time.
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
I disagree with it.
Oh, is disagree?
No.
Because, you see, I come back, and this is where we get involved in these contradictions.
Yeah.
To me, distribution of income, and I think to you,
Yeah. Very important.
it ought to be. The immorality, and I would say the illegality of that 2016 petroleum agreement signed by Trotman.
Yeah.
Those two things, in my view,
Yeah.
disqualify or mark mark the situation as anti-working class,
Yeah.
anti-Guyana.
Yeah.
How could you say that, oh, they're worse evils, so I will go with this. I will stick with this.
I'll tell you this. 100% I agree with you. I wrote and I said before, including on this program, that real patriots and nationalists do not give away the resources of this country for song. You don't do it.
Or when they know they're given away, they try to.
Yeah, you don't. I said that borders on treason. Right? You just don't give away the resources of a country like that. I totally oppose it. I'm opposed to it, and I will stand in opposition to it regardless of who do it. I believe that the resources of this country should be protected. I believe that the people should have, that we should be the government has a right, the state has a right to demand a particular return on our resources, and not the foreign companies dictating to us what will be given to us and what they will be take.
Well, if the Petroleum Act makes it very clear that the petroleum resources of Guyana belongs to the state. We've just, the APNU plus AFC has just vested that. We've got a few minutes left, Gerald.
Well, all of these companies, Exxon, these corporations, they're bullies, and we have allowed ourselves to be bullied by them. Real leaders, courageous people in the tradition of Forbes, born with them, would stand up to these predators.
The nomination is a couple days from now.
Yeah.
How many parties you see
making it?
Making it.
I'm not. I won't be able to say. 19. I think, I don't know. You might get a few out of the 19. You might get about 5, 6 making it.
I said the other day, and I've given fair prominence to these smaller parties.
Yeah.
I said the other day in a letter I did to the Stafford News that the evidence is that a vote for the small party has historically been a wasted vote. What's your view?
Well, you're right. Historically, we've seen that, but we got to break it. It takes time. to break that for third parties or for. I think the big mistake the parties made, the small parties, is that they believe that they can contest, they can run by themselves and make an impact. And Chris, you see, it's a lot of, I know what happened, and they were meeting at different parties, and egos, everybody, inflated egos, and they don't understand how this thing works, and they will go into the elections, and they won't achieve anything. This is going to end up being a battle between the two leviathans.
So you would suggest that people should not be expending their votes on any but the two leviathans, meaning the PPP,
well,
APNU plus AFC and the PPP.
At the regional level, we are contesting at the regional level. We are supporting APNU AFC at the top of the ballot, but we are asking people to vote for us at the region, right? We're asking,
which region?
Region 4, sorry, Region 4.
Mm-hmm.
Region 4, we are asking for that because OVP control Region 4 will deliver and will shake up a lot of things in the region.
You know how many seats you got to get.
We'll need at least roughly about 100,000 votes.
Are you being realistic, chap?
No, I said no. I'm saying to win the council outright, we'll have to get that. I am being realistic. I'm not saying we're going to get it, but to win it outright, we'll have to get that. That's what I'm saying.
We've got, I think it's 50
but
something.
People are buying it. People like the idea. We go out there and people are buying the idea. Look, let
me ask this question. What do you see happening come election day with these smaller parties? And you describe smaller parties, any but one or the other of the big two. That's all. So you see none of them, you don't see a future for any of them.
Well, they are not offering, all these political parties, what are they offering? If you read their program, their manifesto, I haven't even seen it, some of the statement, they sound like, I'm not going to identify some of them, but some of them sound exactly like a rehash AFC. They sound just like the AFC in its early days, right? There are a number of parties.
So which one of them
like
you're talking about? Are you talking of Change Guyana?
Change Guyana is one.
In what way is Change Guyana just an echo of the AFC?
Politically, they're committed to the liberal, what is called the liberal democratic project, and despite the talk about which is easily slogans and so, they're all guided. They're all in for neoliberal economics. They're not challenging that. That's taken as a given. ANUG is the same thing.
You saw the door open just now.
Yeah.
The operator was saying.
Yeah.
Gerald,
Yeah.
Leader of the OVP. Thank you very much for appearing on Plain Talk.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Operators and viewers, thank you and good night. It's the first program we've had. I'll see you next week. I have commentator Henry Jeffrey, who will be my guest, and we will hear some of his political wisdom and his own experiences in politics. So thank you and good night.
Look down from your window, no big city lights, just greenery. I don't know what you come for. Loosen up, my dear, we're such a man free. Welcome to the land of many faces, not one, not two, but 6 different races. You know when the sun kisses your skin, you're in the right place.